Okay, so me and animals. This is weird. All right, so and I'm calling them animals that they could just as easily be insects. I know. I'm driving down the road, holding on to the phone, trying to get it to sit. To sit like this. All right, let's put it here. Hey, that might be better. Okay, let's play with the phone. So anyway, me and animals has always been kind of weird. There was a time period, I don't know how many years, where I used to have dreams. And anybody that knows me really well has heard this story. But for a while, and I don't know how long, but a period of time, I dreamed about 3 different beings. One was spiders. Excuse me. One was roaches. One was snakes. And all the dreams were the same. They were always, I would see the item and go, huh. And then I'd see it again and go, I'm not happy to see you again. And then I'd see it the second time and I'd wake up. Like I'd be so upset or afraid, or I'd scream myself awake and my husband would be like, you're okay, you're okay. That happened for years at least. Each of the items I mentioned, same responses. And then I started telling people about it. Actually, just one person I had told. And she said, well, that's interesting that it's in 3s. And so I was like, okay. As soon as I started telling her about it, I stopped having the dreams. Okay. Now, I don't know if this connects to my animal thing or not. When I was growing up, I was fearful of animals. Nervous. Mostly nervous. They're unfamiliar creatures too. I was a shy little child. Very, very, very shy. I was a bookworm. Turns out later I was an empath. Who knew, right? So I was growing up in this world of animals that I really just didn't relate to. And but when I got older, I had an incident where I was almost bitten by a little tiny dog. And so I was really afraid of them then. So I was like, oh my gosh, they're out to get me, And so when people would say, why don't you like animals? I said, oh, well, I've kind of been bitten by one or something. It was kind of an excuse because I didn't want to explain that I've always been afraid of them. Well, at some point in time, I stopped being afraid of them. I don't really know what happened. Maybe it was after I became I thought I wasn't, maybe after my research into being an empath, but I don't think that was it. It was way before that actually. I remember now I was at a friend's house and their animals were there. They had a cat and a dog. And the dog, I didn't really notice the dog, but the cat was in my lap. And it was just kind of sitting there and I was just kind of absentmindedly rubbing its head. Me. Yeah, the same one that was afraid of animals. And so he fell asleep. And then we looked down, and this was weird because they were like, what's going on? I'm like, what are you talking about? The dog was asleep at my feet. The dog and the cat were asleep on me. And I'm like, that was my Dr. Dolittle moment. But even before then, I remember a friend of the friends, well, they're our friends too. We were at their house, and their Doberman was like all over me. He had his head in my lap, and I was just absentmindedly rubbing his back. And I stopped because we were talking, and he nudged me. And I was like, what's going on, And his master said, don't you do that. Oh, she was really upset with him because she said he was being aggressive. And I thought, well, he just didn't like me to stop rubbing him, And then there was an incident with a cat where I was rubbing her back. And I guess I was rubbing it the wrong way. I didn't know. I was just rubbing her back. She was on my lap. And then she tried to, jump at me. And then her boss got mad at her. But she goes, yeah, you have to rub her a certain way. And I'm thinking, and why didn't you tell me this? Because she's in my lap. Excuse me. Anyway. So there were just kind of weird things that had happened. But I can't at this moment remember where there was a time that it shifted from being afraid of them to them being all over me. But it happened. And it's a real thing. When I was traveling, I met some animals, at different places. There was a dog named Molly. That was the first dog I actually spent time with inside a house. No problem. We chatted. She actually couldn't talk very well. She had some issues with her throat. And she used to sleep in the bathroom where I was, and I would have to go TT in the middle of the night, and I'd go, Molly, move. And she'd be like sitting right by the toilet. And one night, I remember practically having to scoot her over to sit down. Come on, Molly, I just gotta pee. So, I mean, obviously our relationship was just no big deal. And then the place in California, they had 2 dogs. I can't remember their names. Holly and Cuddles. And she wasn't sure about me staying. She said we had to see how the dogs responded. And so I'm like sitting at the table trying to see what's going to happen. I mean, I flew from wherever I came from. And the dogs were like sniffing me. 5 minutes later, we're all good. She goes, oh my God, no one has ever... They've never done this with the person before where they accepted them within 5 minutes. They're like, you're part of the, what is it, where the dogs have a group? I was like, okay. So I was there with them for 6 months. And most of the time it was just me and them because the other 2 were working. The humans, they were working. So yeah, it like totally shifted somewhere. And now I see a dog on the street. And not only do they not pay me any attention, half the time they don't even look at me. They'll just, I've had dogs literally look at me kind of like, and just keep on walking. Like literally, they'll look at me and then kind of like, whatever. Isn't that weird? We have this strange relationship. I remember a dog had a huge face not long ago. I'd never seen a dog like that. And I was just kind of looking at him kind of like, what are you? This is odd. And then he looked at me like, and just kept on walking. Yeah, so now I have a weird relationship with animals. They're like my tribe or something. I don't know. So yeah, that's how fast things can change. I wish I could remember the turning point. I mean, the real deal where I went from, oh my God, I'm terrified, to, hey, what's up? Oh well, maybe it'll come to me later. But yeah, you have to admit, that's kind of a history. All right, thanks. I'm going to try this again.